Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the most fundamental purpose for any government is its national defense and the protection of its citizens. I stand here today in heartfelt support for Israel and its right to defend its innocent citizens from the attacks of a relentless enemy that seeks its destruction. The conflict unfolding in Israel's heartland today is not unfamiliar to the Israeli people. Since its establishment in 1948, the tiny state of Israel, 22 of which would fit into our state of California, has faced enemies on every side that openly oppose its right to exist and work actively to bring about its destruction. Madam Speaker, consider some of the things that terrorist enemies of Israel have said they intend to do to Israel. Sheikh Hassan Nasrallah stated that we, quote, "We have discovered how to hit the Jews where they are most vulnerable. The Jews love life, so that is what we shall take from them. We will win because the Jews love life and we love death," unquote. In June of 2008, Ahmadinejad again made clear where he stands. Israel, he declared, is about to die and will soon be erased from the geographical scene, close quote. Ahmadinejad also said, "Anybody who recognizes Israel will burn in the fire of the Islamic nation's fury," close quote. Mr. Speaker, indeed, it seems that Hitler's ghost still walks through the streets of Tehran. In December 2001, former Iranian President Ali Akbar Rafsanjani was commenting on the possibility of an Israeli retaliation after an Iranian nuclear strike. He said, quote, "The use of an atomic bomb against Israel would destroy Israel completely, while the same against the Islamic world would only cause damages. Such a scenario is not inconceivable," unquote. Mr. Speaker, the small nation of Israel could fit geographically into my congressional district almost 3 times. An Iranian Shahab-3 missile can reach Israel in 12 minutes. If Iran can develop and attach a medium-sized nuclear warhead to that missile, Tel Aviv or Jerusalem could be ashes within 15 minutes after the missile was launched from Iran. If the warhead was detonated above the atmosphere over Israel in an EMP attack, the entire Jewish nation could be completely incapacitated. Israel missile defenses would only have about a 50-50 chance of knocking down even just the first of such missiles. A responsible Israeli leader facing a mortal threat from a nuclear-armed terrorist state will do whatever is necessary to defend his people. Mr. Speaker, Israel will not be made to walk silently into the gas chambers again. And when the day comes when the head of Israeli intelligence tells the Prime Minister that Iran is on the brink of an operational nuclear weapons capability, Israel will act, and in their own self-defense, and no one will have any right to blame them. So let me say this, Mr. Speaker. If and when the people of Israel find themselves with no time left and no choice but to defend themselves by taking preemptive military action to prevent Iran from gaining nuclear weapons, the Obama administration will owe an apology to the whole world for failing to act, but especially to Israel for leaving them with no choice but to act on behalf of all of us. America and the Western world will then have a moral responsibility to stand with Israel in whatever follows, Mr. Speaker. Indeed, Israel has never known a reality where its very existence was not threatened by this insidious ideology called jihad. An ideology so sinister as to make men and women leap for joy at killing their own children in order to be able to kill the children of others. Whether that means flying commercial airplanes into the World Trade Center or sending a Qassam rocket into the side of a bus carrying small school children in Israel. Once again, Madam Speaker, certain members of the international community are calling on Israel to, quote, exercise restraint. Madam Speaker, if 6,000 rockets had fallen on an American city over a space of 4 years, what would we say to anyone who called upon us to restrain ourselves in the effort to protect our own citizens? If those same members of the international community who so harshly criticize Israel for the defensive actions had to suffer for 1 week, just 1 week, under these indiscriminate, incessant attacks against their families and their loved ones, as Israel has done for decades, Madam Speaker, I would submit that the lairs of Hamas would have been made ashes once and for all long ago. We stand with Israel not as Republicans, Madam Speaker, not as Democrats, but as Americans and fellow members of the human family. Equal heirs of those unalienable gifts of God we call life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, these basic human freedoms. We stand with the innocent people of Israel who have been terrorized on a daily basis, some for as long as they can remember. Mr. Speaker, Israel remains the truest friend America has in this world. And yet in recent days, Israel has received more open rebuke from the Obama administration for plans to build houses in Jerusalem than Iran has received for building a secret uranium enrichment facility to build nuclear weapons that would threaten the entire world. It astonishes me, Mr. Speaker, and may I remind this administration that Jerusalem is not a settlement. It is the capital of the nation of Israel, founded and built by the ancient people of Israel 3,000 years ago. And when this administration criticizes Israel, do they not understand that Israel's enemies and ours see it as a weakening of the Israeli-American alliance and an opportunity to boldly advance violence against Israel and the hegemony of our common enemies in the Middle East? Israel and America need each other now as much as we ever have, Mr. Speaker, because nuclear Iran presents a threat to the paradigm of freedom for the entire world, and it truly represents a fundamental existential threat to the state of Israel. Madam Speaker, America's enemies and Israel's enemies in this war are the same. Both of us face the reality of radical Islamic jihadists who would see our nations wiped from the face of the earth if they could. Both of our nations have been struck deeply, and Israel, in its case, has been repeatedly, by any stretch of imagination, has been struck by this same ideology time and time again. The same ideology that murdered Olympic athletes in 1972, that took American hostages in Iran, that murdered Marines in their barracks in 1993, that bombed the World Trade Center in 1993, that bombed Riyadh in 1995, the Khobar Towers in 1996, the Embassy in 1998, the USS Cole in 2000. And then, Madam Speaker, this murderous, hellish ideology massacred nearly 3,000 Americans on September 11th. And this enemy makes little distinction between those who support Israel and Israel itself. And for that reason, Madam Speaker, we must realize that an attack on Israel is an attack on America and freedom itself. Madam Speaker, President Harry Truman, who formally recognized the state of Israel only 11 minutes after Israel had declared its independence, said, quote, "I had faith in Israel before it was established. I have faith in it now. I believe it has a glorious future before it, not just another sovereign nation, but as an embodiment of the great ideals of our civilization." Madam Speaker, we recognize those words to be true and believe that the cause of liberty will prevail in the land of Israel, as it has so many times before, and that Israel indeed does have a glorious future before it.